Hi, I'm David Garcia, aka The Extreme. I'm here to talk to you about watches today. Now, first of all, you may be asking yourself, well, why does he call himself The Extreme? Well, that's a nickname I've had for quite some time. And those who know me best know me as The Extreme for one simple reason. Everything I've ever done in my lifetime, whether good or bad, I've done to the extreme. And as a brief example, I've been collecting watches since January. And my wife and I, between the both of us, probably have over 40 watches just since January. Now, I'd say that's pretty extreme. But today is kind of a watch 101, if you will. I'm going to go over what the basic pieces of a watch, basic components of a watch are. I'm not going to go into too much detail about movements or things of that nature. Those will come in subsequent videos. But this is part one of Watch 101. So I'm going to start with this particular watch. And let's just start with the basics, okay? The body of the watch is known as the casing. I don't think that's really rocket science. Most of you can figure that out. This piece right here that you would adjust the time with is known as the crown. The piece in the center underneath the glass is known as your dial. And your dial houses your hour and minute hand and also your second hand if there is a second hand to be viewed. The two pieces right here which connect the band to the watch are known as the lug, which would be here, 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 and here. So your band goes in between two lugs on each side. Now, as we talk about bands, I've got different types of bands here. First of all, I'll reference this one. This is a leather band watch. Kind of obvious looking at it. It's leather. So that's one of your options when purchasing a watch, is what type of band you want. This is leather. This particular watch, you notice how it'll flop around very freely. This is a polyurethane or a rubber band, if you will. And then finally you come to your alloy type bands, which are known as bracelets. This is known as a bracelet. Now, they can come in different materials such as stainless steel, tungsten, ceramic. Most common is going to be stainless steel. So if you're looking for a watch and you want to get a stainless steel watch, the most important thing to remember is to look for one term, and that's referred to as 316L. That's 316L refers to surgical grade steel, is what that's really referring to. So now let's talk about the crystal. You have different types of crystals on watches. When you get a really inexpensive watch, I hate to use the term cheap, but really, really inexpensive, you might often end up with a plastic crystal. But as you start to buy better watches, the crystals get better as well. So first off, we'll talk about what's known as a mineral crystal. Now, a mineral crystal is a very, very hard crystal, if you will. Very shock resistant, difficult to break. Not impossible, but very difficult to break or even crack. That's the mineral crystal property. From there, you jump up to what's considered maybe the best crystal, and that's a sapphire crystal. Now, sapphire crystal is very hard as well, not quite as hard as mineral, but its main property is it's scratch resistant. Very difficult to scratch a sapphire crystal. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's a lot harder to scratch a sapphire crystal. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind on the bracelet type watches, when you close these up, they'll have different types of clasps. This one has a double clasp. Well, it has a single clasp with an extra added piece to make sure the clasp never opens, so you won't have to worry about it falling off your wrist. So from there we're going to go on to dials. Now, when I talk about dials, remember I just referenced that. That's the part on the inside of the watch on which the hands of the watch reside. Now, first off, we'll look at this one again, the one I just closed up. And this is more of a standard type dial, if you will. Actually, I'm going to put it on my hand over here. This is a standard type dial. It's a metal type dial, which you'll find in various colors: white, black, blue, brown, silver. That's going to be the most common type of dial that you'll encounter with watches. Got a good shot of that? All right. So the next dial I'd like to cover would be on the one with the polyurethane band or the rubber band. And this is known as a carbon fiber dial. Now this is a very unique dial in terms of its look, its attraction. Many of you have probably heard of carbon fiber before. It's used in race cars quite frequently. And why is it used in race cars? Well, carbon fiber is about 5 times lighter than steel, but it's even much stronger than steel. It's very, very resilient material. But that's not its only application. It has many different applications, and as you can see here, it even has an application as a watch dial. So here it has like a weave type pattern that you can see of blue and white, and it provides for a very, very attractive dial look on your watch. Alright, from there I want to talk about this particular watch. This is one of my favorites. This is known as a mop dial. Now, what do I mean by mop? Does that mean you can mop your floor with it? Afraid not. I don't think that'd be a very good idea. Mop is simply an abbreviation for mother of pearl. And many of you are familiar with the term mother of pearl. It's a highly unique looking surface that has the ability to somewhat change colors as the light hits it. Now this particular mother of pearl is a blue mother of pearl, but it has a look almost like a cloudy sky with white clouds. And you'll see some pinks and some greens in there as well, just all depending on how the light hits it. Hope you can see that okay. And then lastly, this is what's known as a skeletonized dial. Okay, so a skeletonized dial shows you the inner workings of the watch. It's not a full dial. It leaves part of it open. Sometimes it leaves all of it open. But it allows you to see the watch as it's doing its work inside the watch while it's doing it. It's really it's a very unique look, very attractive, and very popular in the watch industry. So real briefly, oh, one more dial I do want to show you. This is known as a luminous dial, or a fully luminous dial, or a full lume dial for short. I don't know if you can see that, but it's lit up. It's like a flashlight. It's glowing and it's glowing and glowing and glowing. Now when we talk about luminosity or lighting on a watch, most watches offer this these days to varying degrees. But the two most common ones are going to be known as what's called superluminova, and then another one called tritium, which I don't have an example to show you of tritium, because tritium really requires a dark environment to see. Now the difference between superluminova and tritium is superluminova needs to be charged by light, by either sunlight or artificial light, and tritium stays on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to about 10 years to half brightness typically, which is kind of like, for those of you who are familiar with the term, kind of like a plasma TV. They're rated in terms of life to half brightness. So that's what tritium is. Now we'll just talk real briefly about movements, because I don't want to go into too much detail today. We'll cover that in a subsequent video. But we'll talk about the first basic movement. The first movement that ever came out in watches was known as a mechanical movement. And remember the skeletonized dial I showed you? That's a mechanical watch. Now what do I mean by mechanical? Well, by mechanical I mean it's got to be hand wound. Okay, so you wind the crown so many times and that gets your watch ticking. You can see the second hand perhaps sweeping motion there. Then here's a quartz movement. And quartz is very different from mechanical in that it's battery operated. So when you look at the second hand, its ticks are very deliberate. Okay, tick, tick, tick. And then lastly, what I'll cover is an automatic watch. Now this is an automatic. You'll notice it's not ticking right now. But automatic, like a mechanical, or differs from a mechanical in that you don't necessarily have to wind it. It winds as you wind, okay? It works as you work. So by the movement of your body is how this watch gets its energy. So I don't want to spend too much time on the subject today, but lastly I'll just show you this real quick. This is a watch winder. So if I know I'm going to wear an automatic the next day and I want it ready to go, I put it in my watch winder and it has it ready for me to go the next day. So I hope you've enjoyed this first installment, and until the next time we talk, this is David Garcia, The Extreme. Thank you.